Welcome, everyone. Bienvenidos. And thanks for joining us in our webinar advice for alumni, all about Spain, todo sobre España. My name is Cristina Canales, and I work in the ISA Barcelona office as the Cultural Activities Coordinator. I'm so happy today to be joining this webinar with all of you guys. And I'm so happy to be with our amazing alumni, Jordan, Gabriel, and Ashley, that they're gonna share some of their experiences with us during our webinar. Also today, within this presentation, we're gonna have Ana Bonura. She is our program manager for our Spain team, and she's gonna be monitoring the chat, and we'll be dropping some helpful links along the way, and as well as answering some of your questions. In the case you have any questions, just feel free to drop them anytime, okay? We're gonna start this webinar talking about why we love Spain. There's so much to talk about Spain. I could spend hours. I'm really passionate about my country. I'm gonna try to do it short, so we are not running out of time. But as I was saying, there's so much of our culture. Spain is a country with a lot of history, with a very important heritage about language, and everywhere you go in Spain, there is something different about it, from the north, the south, different cities. It's very interesting in a very small country. If we think about Spain, Spain is the same size as Texas. I would say, wow, super small, but actually is the second largest country in the EU, in Europe. However, it's a small country, but it has a lot of differences between of each region. Our cuisine, our food is great. Spanish people, we are very passionate about eating, about socializing. This is a really important fact of our culture. We love to see our families and friends out there in the streets. If we think about Spain, we think about good weather, squares, places to go and have a drink with our family, friends, eating some tapas. Food is great. Some people think about tapas when they think about a specific type of food, but actually it's not. Tapas is anything you can share, sharing with friends, and as I was saying, socializing. Socializing is very important, and it is actually a very important part of our culture. Also, when we think about Spain, sometimes people are asking, what is siesta? We love to enjoy our free time, right? We want to have a balance between working time and free time. And siesta, it truly helps us to do so. It's a small break in between the day that we have after lunch, usually. And it helps us to do our free time a little better and have a better balance in our lives. As I was saying, our free time is very important, and we like that. And we like to be out there on the streets and squares and parks and by the beach, by the nature. Also, very important, Spanish language. If we think about language skills, what a better way to practice your Spanish than living in Spain and improving your Spanish skills. Sometimes when I met students at the very beginning of each program, they feel a little bit embarrassed to practice. I have the feeling that many students can understand way better than they can practice or speaking. But after a few weeks, language, it's part of your day life. So after living in Spain for a couple of weeks or a couple of days, sometimes your language skills are gonna be very thankful of being in Spain. Sometimes you will do mistakes. That's okay. That's not a problem. The important is that you feel yourself out there practicing the language. The more you can practice, the better language skills you're gonna get for your future. So what about our programs? Because we have lots of different sites in Spain. We have actually one of the largest programs in Europe. We have 8 cities with 19 host universities that will be very happy to host you at some point. As I was saying, Spain is a country with a lot of history, and that makes every city, every place very different and very unique. Spain has a long tradition of culture and history, but every city has lots of different opportunities for you guys to fit what is better for your future career in terms of classes, right? You can find different sites depending on what you like to live and experience. You can find yourself living in the south of Spain with programs like Sevilla or Malaga or Granada, places that are very interesting and with lots of influences from the Moors. Keep in mind that Spain was occupied by the Muslims for more than 800 years during Middle Ages. So there is a lot of great influences on our history. If you see the buildings, the architecture, the food, the flamenco, there is a lot of different types of places that you can go. Barcelona, for example, the city where I live, it's a very international city with lots of modern kind of vibes. Valencia, very Mediterranean city, is a beautiful place to live and study, like Malaga. There are lots of different places, even in the north, lots of nature, fully nature, and lots of culture and history as well. So I'm sure everywhere in Spain, you can find yourself within the best university career that fits better for you guys. There are also, in every site of our programs, there are also different options for housing. There are some places that you can choose between, actually in many of them, you can choose between living in a host family, which is super interesting if you really want to get immersed in our culture. Living with a host family gives you the opportunity to understand how local families live, the food, their lifestyle, how they socialize with their friends and kids. It's very interesting. But you have also the opportunities to live in a dorm, like in a residencia, or in an independent housing, or in an apartment. So everywhere you go, there are different opportunities for each of you that might be a little different, but all of them are truly helpful for your experience abroad. Let's talk about our team. How do you feel about meeting this huge and amazing team? I feel super lucky, actually. As I was saying before, I work in the Barcelona office. However, I personally met many of all these staff. We are more than 30 people working in Spain in different sites, as you can imagine. But something I could truly say about our team is that we are very passionate about our work. We get along very well with the students. Something that really matters for us is when anyone comes to study abroad with ISA, we really take care since the very beginning. We pick you up, guys, at the airport, and we make sure your experience is along the way a great journey until the very last day of the program. We are a very big team because we want to make sure your experiences is fully supported, not just in the fun fact, which it is actually, but also to support you with culturally overshocked sometimes, adapting yourself to the new place where you guys are living, helping you guys with the transition of the changes of your classes. There are a lot of challenges studying abroad, and we want to make sure you feel yourself comfortable with us, and we want to make sure we can support every single person, right? There are many opportunities for us when we receive a group of students that we meet you at the airport, but at the same time, we take you to excursions, to day trips, to activities, to tours. We organize a bunch of things so we can know each other a little bit more but also, of course, to know other students in the program. So since the very beginning till the very end of the program, we are always in touch and organizing things and helping you guys into this transition of getting and living in the place that you choose to live for your study abroad experience. Something it is also very important for us is that as we get along very well between our staff, we are always there. If you guys are traveling, if you are studying in Malaga and you are traveling to Sevilla, we know that we can count on our staff everywhere that the students are traveling. So that's a good thing to keep in mind, just in case. And we are also love to travel with you guys because the majority of us, and I do also, we are very passionate about traveling and we love our culture, we love our country, and there's always great tips for our students on how to navigate around the country. We plan excursions with you guys, but there are students who like to travel on their own on the weekends. So if there are students traveling to any other place in Spain, we always give them our tips, our recommendations, where to go, where to stay, what to visit, what you should do, or what is the best time to travel to this place because a specific festival or culture event. So we are always a good resource of information for our students, which we truly like. Maybe you are an out-of-state student. Going abroad might be cheaper sometimes than staying at home. That's something very important to consider. Do you already use a financial aid? Check with your financial aid office to see if you can take this financial aid abroad. Maybe sometimes it is possible, which is great. Do you usually have a scholarship? You might be able to take this scholarship with you. Have you looked into the budget? Depending on where you go in Spain, there is sometimes good thing to consider that there are cities in Spain more expensive than others, as I believe it is in the US, probably. There are like cities very flexible within the food budget or the traveling budget. Living in Barcelona sometimes is a little bit more expensive than in Malaga, for example. Food in Madrid and Barcelona is sometimes more expensive because they're very big cities, but there are always a bunch of opportunities for tight budgets. So there are also great opportunities to check different places and budget. Some students in the past have considered getting a job before studying abroad so they can save some money. And that might be very helpful in the case you want to save money for traveling and doing some other stuff while abroad. Some other students have been asking for presents like Christmas presents or any other type of presents to get their money for going abroad, which is always welcome. Traveling abroad, it's one of the best presents someone can get. And I'm sure it would truly change your life for the good. So what's next? What's next? I'm sure you're getting ready. You're thinking already about where should I go? What should I do? Should I start thinking about going to Spain or not? I think the answer is always a yes. I think, and I'm sure Jordan, Gabriel, and Ashley will talk about that later, but I'm sure living abroad, it's one of the most unique experiences that might change your life for the good. And yes, if you're thinking about applying, I strongly encourage you to set up an advising appointment. Our team can help you narrow down the options for the programs that fits better for you. Anna is going to drop also a link now if you like to book an appointment with them. Once you've chosen your program, which is a tough decision already, you'll need to apply with us as well as your home university. It's very important. Be sure to stay in touch with your study abroad office along the way, as they are really helpful through this process, and it relates to your university. Once you have applied, our program managers will be there to answer any questions you have along the way. If you're just starting about getting ready or enrolled into a program, we think it's always very, very helpful to talk to someone who's been there already. We're happy to connect you guys with one of today's panelists, alumni, or someone else from our alumni network that can answer your questions. Anna is going to drop a link in the chat so you can fill it out and be connected directly with one of our alumni. We have many alumni from different places in the US that have been studying in Spain. And we're also very happy to connect you with someone that shares like a similar identity as you do, if you want to ask them about their personal experience and advice, of course. We're ready to talk to Jordan, Gabrielle, and Ashley about their experiences. Before I get into the questions, please, can you introduce yourself, share your name, your home university, and where and when you studied abroad? Let's start with Gabriel.
Hey guys, I'm Gabe. I go to University of Massachusetts Lowell. I went to Spain actually last semester, so fall 2022 in Sevilla, and I had an amazing time.
Great. I remember I met Gabriel. We went to Morocco. ISA Spain organized a trip to Morocco. And we get the opportunity to go in this trip with other programs. So I came from Barcelona and he came from Sevilla. And there were other students from Madrid, Malaga, Granada. That was an amazing experience, a very unique experience. And I'm so happy you got the chance to go. What about Ashley?
Hey everyone, my name is Ashley. I am a student at North Carolina State University. I studied abroad this past summer in Madrid, Spain, and I had a really great experience. So I'm super excited to chat with you all and talk about my experience.
Thank you, Ashley. And finally, Jordan. Hello, Jordan.
Hi, I'm Jordan, obviously, and I studied like Gabe in Sevilla. I was there last spring, so spring of 22. And I'm actually currently an alumni relations coordinator with ISA and teen programs. So like if any of you are interested in connecting with alumni and you fill out that form, then I will certainly put you in touch with some people, if not myself, to tell you a little bit more about Spain.
Thank you, Jordan. All right, let's start with some easy questions. Why did you choose your particular city in Spain? Ashley?
Yes, so great question. I would say for me, I have been taking Spanish courses for now 10 years. I started in middle school, and so I grew a passion for the Spanish language over time. And so I knew that I wanted to further my understanding of the language and the culture. Not only that, but I also had to keep in mind that I needed to study abroad in a location that offered the courses that I needed for my credits, for my graduation requirements. And Madrid had that as well. I would also say Spain is very central to a lot of the neighboring countries that are popular tourist destinations, such as Italy, Portugal, France. So it's also a great location for those who are interested in travel opportunities as well, including myself. But overall, those are the main things that contributed to my decision.
Nice, thank you, Ashley. And Jordan, why Sevilla?
I think for me, it was primarily a weather decision. Like I've grown up in in like rural Colorado in the mountains, and it's just so cold here. And I always wanted to live somewhere warm. And so I think the thought of like southern Spain was super nice, being not super far from the beach. You have like an hour to Cadiz if you want to go to the beach, or Huelva. And I think, I don't know, I also had always heard so much about like the culture of southern Spain and how kind of life was just a little bit like slower and more relaxed there. And I would say it certainly lived up to that. Like you just really get to take your time with every meal. and every time we go out for a drink, and you really just like, everyone's really good at enjoying their company and like, the simple things. So I think I had been kind of promised that, and it was very much like living up to the expectations.
Nice. Well, same to you, Gabriel. What did you choose Sevilla?
Definitely because well, already Jordan and Ashley mentioned a lot of good reasons. My cousin actually went to Sevilla about 10 years ago and talked about all the time my grandfather and my aunt actually visited her, and she would not stop talking about it. So I did some information like searching about it. So I narrowed my list down to Sevilla, Valencia, and Madrid. And so one of my friends from my school was going to Valencia, one was going to Madrid. And so I said, all right, do I want to go with my friends and kind of experience it with them, or do I want to go by myself and kind of, be by myself and, just put myself out there and meet people and kind of be like a new place. And so I ended up going to Sevilla. I got to visit my friends in their different cities, and also the weather and the lifestyle is just super nice, always warm. I'll always go on top of the Residencia roof and just like kind of tan up there. And like I always go to Puerto Rico because my dad's side's from Puerto Rico, so it kind of reminded me of that. And plus, like Jordan said, it's like an hour from Cadiz, so you can just go to the beach anytime.
Nice. That's very interesting. So even after you decide where you wanted to go to study abroad, did studying abroad can be a little bit daunting. Jordan, what was your biggest concern about leading up to your program?
Yeah, I'd say my biggest concern was obtaining my visa in time, and like doing so with ease, because I'd separately studied in the UK a few years before, and it was a complete mess getting the visa. But I did use like the ISA visa service. And I'm sorry if you guys can hear my dog whining in the background. But anyway, yeah, I would just say like dealing with bureaucracy is always difficult, trying to get a visa. And so that was definitely my fear, but it worked out in the end. I used like the ISA visa service and it was super helpful. So
Good, good. And what about you, Ashley?
Yes, so I actually had a few concerns. So, number one, we're in the midst of a global pandemic. And at the time, I had my study abroad requirements, and then I had additional COVID requirements. So, I was very nervous about seeing how that would play out for me. I also would say that studying abroad with ISA, I did not have the security blanket of knowing that I'm studying abroad with people from my own university. And so, for me, I think that was a daunting feat, but it was also very intriguing to me because I tend to take the roads less traveled, and I put myself in situations where I have to meet new people and expose myself to different types of people. So that was also something that I was a little concerned about, but very excited about. And then how qualified was I? I'd been taking Spanish for 10 years, but being in a classroom and learning Spanish and actually having to put your Spanish into practice are two different challenges. And I didn't know if I was necessarily qualified. I didn't know how well I would do. I didn't know if people would understand me or if I would look stupid. So I was nervous about that for sure. And then I would also say making sure that my courses actually did transfer back to my university. That was something that I was very on top of, but things happen, and I try to be in control of every little detail. So I was very anal about it, but I was a little concerned initially, but it ended up working out in the end.
It did work out, right?
Yes, it did.
Nice, very nice. Sometimes one of the biggest stressors about going abroad is not knowing anyone. And that's something that many students are very concerned about. Gabriel, do you have any advice for students? Because you said you end up deciding to study abroad to a place where your friends were not going with you. So each of you went to a different city, right? Do you have any advice for future students about this, about not knowing anyone?
Yeah, definitely. That was kind of one of my biggest concerns, was like kind of being in a place I've never been to for 3 months by myself and just kind of meeting new people. And the best part about it is ISA kind of sets you up from the beginning. I remember getting to the airport and I saw ISA by program manager Kike put up a sign saying ISA. I was the first one to get there, and slowly new people came, and then we all sat down at a table, introduced each other, started talking on the bus on the way to the ISA study center. And I remember it was in like the classes and also like through tours, you just talk to people on the way, and like when you're sitting down, and like we went to like flamenco shows, and even on like trips to like Portugal, Morocco, Granada, Cordoba, you just meet so many different people. And by the end of the whole thing, you basically know everyone. It's just, I don't know, even through like the residency as well, I just made so many friends out at the different universities. Everyone was very open-minded and wanted to travel and wanted to learn Spanish and explore the city. So it's just very easy to just talk to new people and actually be friends with them.
That's why we really like at the very beginning to organize activities with the students, so you can guys meet each other, start making your connections. And at the end of the program, something I experience with my students is that there are very good relationships, friendships that can last forever. And that's a very unique time of your life that you share with some people, that it's also very important for you guys. So it's a very interesting how those relationships get along the way of your study abroad experience.
Can I
Gabriel,
jump in?
uh-huh.
I actually I'm still in touch with a lot of my friends from study abroad. I'm actually going to visit a lot of them next week. Next
Really?
Wednesday, I'm going to fly out to Denver, and
Wow.
all my friends. I'm going to see a lot of my friends from study abroad. I actually went to the University of Denver, so I'll probably see 20, 30 of them over there. So I'm very excited to
Wow.
see them all next week.
That's amazing, Gabriel. That's so cool. That's so cool. That's what I was saying. I think it's very interesting how to see students the first day when they arrive, like a little scared about not knowing people, but at the end of the program, you feel like I see students like super sad, not just because leaving the country, but the relationships that they made along the journey of studying abroad. That's very nice. That's very nice. But Gabriel, you choose to live in residencia, right?
Yes.
Did this actually, the fact that living in a residencia help you to make new friends, like with them in the same building?
Yeah,
You were
so
saying
it
like,
definitely
you were,
helped a ton because so the residencia, I wouldn't think about it as like an apartment. It was an actual house. It was an actual house. So you walk in and there's just a bunch of like kind of rooms, and there's dorms. You have your own kitchen. You have an upstairs, more rooms, and then you have a kind of common space with the TV. Then you have upstairs, you have a roof, a laundry room. And so anytime you're just walking around, people always left their doors open, so you can just walk into people's room, just talk to them to see what's going on. I remember one time I was just hanging out in my room doing homework, and a couple of my friends, actually I didn't know them at the time, they came into my room and said, "Hey, we're going to dinner, you want to join us?" And I actually ended up going to dinner with them, and I actually got to meet them and ended up becoming really good friends with them. So it's just everyone's kind of looking for new people to hang out with, and I ended up hanging out with different people every single day, and eventually just made a bunch of new friends from there.
that's very cool. And actually, Jordan, your experience was a little different because you choose to live as an independent housing, right? What were
Yeah.
some ways for you to make new friends?
Um, I mean, I also kind of got lucky in that the independent housing thing I found was um, still a sort of a like student housing, but just not so much. Like it wasn't formal student housing, but there were a bunch of other students from like other exchange programs in Europe, like France or Italy, that were there. So it was a really cool way to like meet people from all over. But I would say in general, like if I hadn't really lucked out with that housing scenario, um, a super effective way to meet people, just like go and do the things that you like to do. Like I like rock climbing a lot, and so I would go to like a climbing gym there, and everyone was just like so friendly. And like I don't know, I had a little bit of trouble at first like understanding the regional accent of Sevilla. Everyone
Oh,
like they just like don't pronounce words fully ever. And
true.
so that was like tricky, but people were super, I don't know, once they realized you had to wear a mask at the time in the gym. And so like people weren't sure, they would just speak Spanish to me. And if I didn't like understand part of what they said. They're always super patient and super glad just to like see someone else there taking part in like an activity they like too. So like rock climbing was a big one. Like there's always opportunities to go kind of just like playing music at different little bars if you keep your eyes out for them, if you're interested in music at all. So I would say just like follow your passions and the people come along with those kind of.
Very nice. Very good. Are you in touch with people that you've met during your study abroad experience?
Yeah, definitely. I think we're all planning a trip. Hopefully this summer we're all going to try and meet up somewhere in like Europe, wherever a middle point for most of them is, but it's a much longer trek for me, unfortunately. But yeah.
Okay. And
Yeah.
Ashley, tell us about the places you went and how it helped you make new friends.
Yes, so I would say the first thing that I want to mention is that when you get off the plane, you are met with ISA staff members and representatives who are going to be your liaisons, your point of contact the entire program. So they take you and your group to your housing locations. And then from there, we actually had orientation. So we got to meet each other, the entire group, at orientation later on that day. If you all have some group meets in the chat, that was something we did before even arriving. That's a good way to get to know each other and to see what universities you all go to. And we also got information about who was housed with one another. So I think that was a great way for us to meet each other and to get to know each other. The staff members also really stressed the importance of building community amongst each other. And so that was important for us because we knew early on that we were resources for each other, but that the staff was a resource for us too. They don't let you go into any situation alone. We were a cohort, so we did a lot of things together, if not everything together. And I also wanted to say there are cultural excursions, but there's also other smaller cultural activities that our university put together for us, like cooking classes. But ISA also did those things for us as well. So we went to museums on the weekdays. We did, like I said, cooking classes on the weekdays. We went to the park and we paddle boated. So things like that just helped us to get to know one another and become closer and become each other's friend.
That's good. Which housing did you choose to live in?
So I lived in an apartment and I was so blown away because it was so nice. This was actually another cool thing. We had a roof. And so all of our friends from our program would come over and we would sit on the roof and play games and talk. And it was really pretty because at night we got to see the stars, or even in the evening, we got to see the sunset from up there. And that's not something that everyone had, but since we had it, it was just really cool and a great way for us to hang out. So.
Muy bien. Okay. For those that have yet to apply, what was the application process like? Let's start with you, Ashley. How was your application process?
So I studied abroad in June and July of 2022. So I studied abroad for 1 month in Spain. But I started the application process in March, so a little bit late. But when I applied, there were still COVID limitations in place. So I had to put together a petition for my university study abroad office. I also had to double check that the COVID requirements that were added to my existing study abroad requirements were accounted for in my petition. I also had to make sure I had ample time to get my passport because I did not have one and I wanted to make sure that that came in time. So that was all a part of my application process. For ISA, I had a representative who kind of walked me through the entire process. And there's a number of checklists in your portal, which you all may have seen already, that kind of help you. They serve as, I guess, a guide to your process. So that was how it went for me. It was mostly just the COVID information that I had to make sure I knew so that I could add that. But other than that, it was pretty seamless and very simple. And they helped me for sure.
Good. Lucky us, there's no more COVID restrictions in Spain, so not even in the public transportation. A few months ago, we had to wear face mask in public transportation and some of the places, but now COVID restrictions are over, and that's good. That's a good thing. Gabriel, how was your application process?
Would say it's very smooth. I'm a big procrastinator. I'm not gonna lie. At the time I just would put it towards the weekend, and so I would focus on schoolwork for the whole week and then kind of focus on the weekend. And there'd be some points over the weekend where I'd have so much homework, I just push it to the next. It would kind of stack up. But once I kind of jumped into it, it was actually kind of smooth going from one to the other. And so once you get into the process of just doing like, few documents a week, it's a very smooth transition from week to week. And then I had to go to the bank to get a document notarized, which was very easy, surprisingly. And I would say it's just very smooth. It's just you want to kind of get on it like as soon as you can. The more you get done now, the easier it's going to be, and the smoother it's going to be later on.
And you, Jordan?
Yeah, I wouldn't really say I have a lot to add to what's already been said. But I'd definitely echo what Gabe was just saying about just like if you can get going on it ahead of time, try and prioritize that, because it's not necessarily a really like difficult application to fill out. It's all very self-explanatory. But it's just that you might have to run the occasional errand, like going to get a document notarized, or going to the post office to like make sure you have the right postage for sending in your passport for your visa application process and stuff. And so I'm not sure, as I was kind of mentioning earlier, I used like the ISA visa service. I'm not entirely sure what the process would be like doing it on your own, other than I do know for a fact it's kind of an arduous process. So like if you're not using the service, just make sure that your passport is good to go and not going to expire for a while, and yeah, you just get going ahead of time.
Okay. And depends on which program you decide to study abroad too. And once you are accepted to the program, you might need to get a visa. Jordan, how was your experience about this? Can you share that with us? Did you get a visa?
Yeah. So as I was kind of starting to say, I used like the ISA visa service, which just in kind of, I think essentially you have to go to an embassy, I believe twice, to get a visa, generally speaking, but there's a service to the embassy on my behalf, and then they sent my I guess passport back with the visa in it like a few weeks before my program started.
And Gabriel, what about booking flights? Any advice you could share?
Yeah, so ISA will reach out. There's actually, they help you. So I'm trying to remember what it was through. It was through Student Universe. There was this guy that actually sent me like
Student portal, the ISI student portal.
Yeah, I think it was through that. And there was this guy actually helped me like sent me like flights for like, oh, you can go on this day, you arrive on this day, and it's like it was like the cheapest flights. It was going from Boston. I did Boston to Madrid, Madrid to Sevilla. It was very smooth, and I would definitely look at those in advance. So for example, my program was under 77 days. So I can tell you guys when I went where to where. I went from the 17th to December 2nd. That's how long my program was. And so I ended up leaving the 16th and arriving September 17th in the morning. So definitely look at when your program kind of starts and ends. And I stayed until the 2nd, but I ended up traveling more. So I went to the Netherlands and Denmark afterwards, and I ended up leaving the 15th. So definitely, I wouldn't leave the day your program ends unless you're eager to go home. Definitely look at like where you can travel to like afterwards, just because like a lot of the time, 77 days seems like a lot, but it goes by really, really quick.
True story. I think I heard this from many other students. Time flies, it really does. And that's a very good tip, Gabriel. Yes. I think the sooner you can buy the flight tickets, the cheaper. And if we think about the program, that's a good team. If you're thinking about traveling after the program or maybe going somewhere with family or friends, that's a good thing to have in mind before booking flights. Definitely. Also, something that it's really interesting when I see students traveling to Spain, packing sometimes it's a little stressful. Sometimes when I go to the airport to pick up students, some of them are with huge suitcases, and I don't know, after a couple of days or so, they're starting saying, "Oh my God, I brought too much stuff." They pack too much things. And I know it's kind of a big thing getting ready before traveling. I don't know what to wear. Dress code is a little different from the US. I think everywhere you go in Spain, even it's a little different. I don't know, Ashley, how do you feel about when you had to pack? It was a stressful moment for you?
So this was one of the things that I had to think about because in Madrid, it was very warm and it almost never rained. So I didn't need any jackets, I didn't need any coats or anything like that. I mostly kept it to t-shirts, tank tops, dresses, shorts. I will say though, outside of clothing, there were things that I wish I had, like my charger adapter, because in Spain, the outlets are different. So the adapter that you use here is not going to be what you'll need there. You're going to need a different adapter. So I wish I had that because I didn't know about it. And one thing that also kind of outside of clothing was my ear tag, because someone's luggage ended up getting lost. And I actually had my air tag on my luggage. And so I knew where it was the whole time. But that was one of the things that I was really happy that I did have. But in terms of clothing, I think I did pretty good with packing and not overpacking. But I also had someone helping me. So that may be a good idea for people who are trying to make sure that they stay within reason or need opinions about what they packed. But yes, that was my packing experience.
Very good tip, Ashley. Jordan, what's your advice on what to take and what to leave behind?
Um, I would say an essential is just in general when you're packing, factor in if you want to travel to other countries and if so, like where. Because I actually this time around I didn't have too many issues with packing, but a few years before when I mentioned I'd studied abroad again, I didn't have like the warmest of clothing at the time, and I remember going to Berlin in like the dead of winter in January, and it was just miserably cold. And so I think, yeah, the thing I would just advise to pack is like if you're going to Spain, don't neglect the possibility that you might end up in Northern Europe at some point if it's somewhere you want to travel, and to maybe bring a heavier jacket just for that. And then, what was the full question again, Christina?
What would you leave behind?
What would I leave behind? I would have probably just left more clothes in general behind. Like I don't really feel like um, I didn't pack a ton, but I even needed less than I thought, because I don't know, it was kind of nice doing laundry there. Honestly, we had a um, you know, clothesline like on our roof, and you just get to go and dry things outside and stand in the sunshine. So I really didn't mind doing laundry. So I figured, kind of if you have an outfit for once every day and you do your laundry once a week, that's really all you need. So I just would have packed a little less clothes in general, but maybe an extra jacket if you're planning on traveling.
Yeah, that's a good thing. I think if someone is coming in June, July, Spain is going to have a big sales season. So there's going to be lots of things that you can buy in Spain for very cheap, We have a very long history of the textile industry. So buying clothing in Spain, it's very cheap compared to the US. Packing light, I think it's helpful because it's easy for you guys to move around if you're thinking about traveling to somewhere. But as Jordan was saying, sometimes if you're thinking about traveling some other places in Europe, Spain is very warm, but other countries in Northern Europe are not. So maybe a jacket or something that you can take or does not take too much space in your bag would be good. Let's change a little bit the topic. Gabriel, knowing what you know now, what advice would you give your former self? Former self?
Just in general, or
Yeah.
I guess that's sorry, I guess in general, I mean, definitely be open to all the experiences you can. I remember at first I was like, do I have time? This is gonna work with like schoolwork. And like I ended up finding out just like you do your schoolwork kind of whenever you get it. If you do it as soon as you can, you have all this free time afterwards. And like people, spontaneous things will happen. There would be like different events going on. There would be the Festival of Nations in Sevilla in the fall. And that was, I didn't really know about it until I asked actually ISA, and they said, oh yeah, it's going on for a week or two. And it's all these nations that come together. There was like South Africa, there was Puerto Rico, there was Costa Rica, there was even an American one. There's Korea, and like all these different ones. They have all this different food. They have like all these different like, you know, things you can buy. It's very interesting. And so always just whenever you get work, just do it, complete it, study, and just, you know, kind of be open to any opportunities, because anything will happen at any time, and you just want to kind of be able to go to all these things.
Nice. Jordan, what was that life-changing moment that you won't forget?
For me, I feel like it kind of happened every day, every morning, just walking to class. Like, I think just like the sensory experience of like walking past some of the most beautiful architecture. Like I knew Sevilla was really known for just being like really traditionally Spanish in terms of like the tapas culture and the bullfighting and flamenco. But like what I didn't know was just like how beautiful of a city it was actually going to be. And there's just like orange trees lining every street. And when they're in bloom in the spring, like you can smell those going everywhere. Like you feel the sun, like you're looking at these beautiful cathedrals, just like walking to class. And I think just like that was kind of a crazy reality check every morning when I'm walking down the street. I'm like damn, this is just my actual surroundings right now. Like I couldn't ask for anything better. And so I think just to have that consistently was pretty life-changing. It's like hard to come back to our country full of like strip malls and stuff, you know. It's like I want, you know, do you want to go back?
I feel like Gabriel is having the same kind of feeling. He's smiling, like actually saying yes. Do you agree, Gabriel?
100%. Every day walking around Sevilla, I'm like, do I actually live here? It's like it feels like it felt like a dream just being there the whole time, honestly. And I remember waking up the day after I got home to Boston, and like, was I actually there? Like it like every day, and even coming back, I just couldn't believe I was there. I honestly wish I was there right now.
Oh wow, that would be very nice. The guys come back to Spain. I feel like something you both were saying, and I 100% agree. I'm from Spain, I'm from Barcelona, and I love my country. But something I truly say my students, walk as much as possible. The streets are the place to be. The more you can walk, the more confident you're gonna feel the city. Uh, Being out there, watching the buildings, trying to find your favorite cafe, your favorite restaurant, your favorite park, it's very unique, and it makes your experience like a very different experience. I think everywhere you go in Spain, no matter if it's Sevilla, Madrid, Granada, or Malaga, all the places are super beautiful. the history of the buildings, the history of the streets are hundreds of years of history. The buildings, so it's everywhere you go. It's just being out there on the squares, having a coffee in a terrace. It's a beautiful way of living. And as I said at the very beginning of the orientation, talking about culture, it's part of our culture just to be outside. Something very weird for us when the pandemic happened a few years ago is we're not used to be at home. Having to be at home for that amount of time, it was very stressful. The way Spaniards live is just being out there socializing with families and friends. You'll see kids from 1 year old to different ages just being out there with friends and family, and that's very unique of our culture. But Ashley, I don't want to forget about you. What was your life changing moment?
So I think for me, the experience in and of itself was life changing because I had never been on a plane by myself and I'd never flown directly to another country before. And so it was a daunting feat because I felt like I was kind of thrown in there, but that was very intentional on my part. I would say with the friends that I made in my cohort, we did a lot of things. We went out a lot, we studied hard, but we actually pulled an all-nighter so that we could catch the sunrise our last morning. And that, it kind of pulled in the entire experience. And it was just a very reflective moment for us. And it felt very surreal. It was one of those moments where it felt very surreal because, you know, it was over and we had such a great time. And we're just thinking about all the things that we did and experienced and got to see. And I would say for those of you who are going to study abroad, definitely set out on as many adventures as you can, excursions and opportunities, so that when you come back and someone asks you, like, what was that life-changing moment, you have an answer for that as well.
Very nice. Good, Ashley. Thank you. Well, I think we're about to finish. I want to thank you all for joining us today in our All About Spain webinar. I was so lucky to have the opportunity to share this time with all of you. I am so excited because I've been reading some students are coming to Barcelona. I will be able to see you around the city, and some others that are going to Salamanca, Sevilla, Bilbao. Spain is a great place to live. There might be lots of challenges along the journey, but I always say to my students that the glory of studying abroad is overcoming all those challenges with passions, with humor, but above all with the spontaneity. And I'm sure the time abroad will be a unique experience for the rest of your life. Thank you so much for coming today and hope to see you soon.